Hytale just released 60 seconds of new footage live during our stream, and we're going to break it down right now. This is a big one. It's our first real footage of the new engine, specifically creative mode, and the tools that you will be able to use yourself outside of the standard adventure mode to build your own worlds and creations. This footage was apparently taken during one of their recent playtests, and begins with a player looking over an empty patch of land. Something, you'd probably find generated in your world. We then get to see them open up their inventory, which brings up the creative menu. Now, this is a new glimpse at their UI and how that's all going. Everything you can see is neatly organized with icons for the different tools. On the left, you can see the inventory and the hotbar. The inventory is actually a little bigger than we've seen before, but this could just be because they're in creative mode. There's of course a button for deleting items and some tabs at the top, but the player focuses first on the prefab menu. A prefab is basically a schematic for a build, like a ready-made asset that you can plonk down. Some examples listed here are boulders, houses, and trees, but clearly there will also be lots of different variations too for you to pick and choose from as you decorate. These are clearly just the basic prefabs though, the ones you'd expect, but I imagine this list will feature a huge number of buildings, locations, and block arrangements that you can use yourself, all of which will likely be found scattered around your adventure mode world. Right now, I'm going to play the full unedited clip to show you guys, and then we'll break down everything in order. Okay, so jumping right into this, the player selects and places a village house down. We've seen this style before in a few ruined village settlements in screenshots, the wood cabin, the straw roof with some fences. It's kind of a style that they've stuck to as far as human-made settlements so far. They then begin placing a rock prefab around the area in different rotations to give more of a randomness to everything. This one over here we can see actually has copper ore or maybe even some iron patches in it. And we can also pause a bit here to check out the UI a bit more. Notice we have a new health and stamina bar. Quite different from the ones we were shown back in 2022, which was actually the last time we really got a good glimpse at the UI. Maybe they just decided to simplify it, but maybe the health and stamina UI could change depending on what mode you're actually playing. I mean, think about it, creative mode doesn't really require those bars to be front and center like if you were in adventure mode or in a PvP minigame of some kind. The options on the left actually show a number of really useful hotkeys too that I'm sure players will be able to make plenty of use from. We obviously start with the menu and inventory, they're pretty standard, to then pressing M to actually change your game mode. You can actually change it with just one press to adventure mode, no need for a command. Although hopefully you don't do this while you're flying in the air, as it might not end too well. Luckily, you can toggle fly mode, it seems. You can also change your speed quickly on the go, toggle collision with objects so that you can no-clip while flying through builds. You can even lock your axis when flying, which means you'll directly fly in the line that you're facing, which can actually be really useful for measuring distances and not losing track of what row your blocks are on. Plus, there's some other helpful tools like being able to select a block from the world to your hotbar, undo, copy, save, and delete different assets. I know the undo feature will definitely come in clutch for a lot of us. You can see the actions that can actually be undone here in the corner, the pace, the rotations, and even the placements, for example. As well, here's hoping that they have a toggle for autosave too, just in case. The player then begins placing trees, using different rotations again, and this time even different tree variants to decorate the house a bit more. Honestly, such a great clip, like 50 seconds of footage I was really not expecting. Like seriously, it's important to note that we were not expecting this footage. Not only is it a clean, whole minute-long video of the new engine, but it runs smoothly and the assets are looking much more realized already. Like, getting real here for a second, this is a big shift up from the more basic engine reveal shots we got in the summer. It shows that the team have really hit the ground running over the last 6 months, fully committed to achieving that end-of-year milestone they talked so much about, and now they're getting to a point where the game is in a better place than it ever has been. Besides, this is just one video that's going to be featured in their next development update, which is due to drop like any day now. That'll be the next video on the channel actually. Also, as a follow-up, if you're wondering why the blocks have this white outline, that's because a highlight option is actually toggled on in the top up here. We can also see NPC awareness is set to false, which I can only assume what that means, but maybe it's them being aware of you in creative mode. Obviously, the normal setting you would expect is for them to just completely ignore you, but it could be useful for map makers to be able to test NPC awareness on the fly. You can even toggle invincibility while in creative mode, which actually, now I think about it, explains why we still have our health and stamina bar. Outside of that, render distance is unfortunately too low to see much else other than the standard setting of Zone 1. We also have a new piece of music from the Hytale OST that's playing in the background, never before heard, but you're hearing it now in the background. And during the stream, by the way, which is our annual charity event celebrating Hytale and Thankmas, which we raised $15,000 for, the team actually showed up live and followed up with some huge questions we've had in the community for years. They even confirmed some bigger plans for 2025 that we really weren't expecting. So here's the live reaction that I and the rest of the community had to this footage when they revealed it.
There's another thing though.
Get out of town.
Like, to kind of go into this a little bit. I have one more question for John. Do you think any sort of like any creators in general will be able to get their hands on tools early?
Okay, I see what you're doing. Yeah, it's like, where's he going with this? Yeah, that's a big thing for, like I mentioned, all the playtests we just went through, and we talked before about our goals for the end of this year. We're all about getting that, I refer to as like a horizontal slice of Hytale, of the engine. So we've been working on this engine for quite some time. Which everyone's very aware of. Yes. We made it really obvious that we're not a date-driven studio. We're driving for quality.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why I know I get a lot of flack for not like announcing dates. I'm not going to give any dates out today, but I will talk about kind of what we're doing. One of the reasons for that is being quality-driven. Like, we set these goals for ourselves, and the goal for end of this year was to have the engine in place and our systems on top of it to the point that we can start getting back into playtests, right? Getting back into what is essentially like porting our gameplay then over, right? From the old engine, from the old playtest that we had, and proving it out. And super excited about that. And one of the reasons why, that was as far as I would declare, because if this last week we had gone into the build and looked at it and said, yeah, it's not ready, we wouldn't, cancel the project or cut half of the gameplay. We would just say, okay, well, in that case, what will it take to get from here to being ready? Thankfully, it went really well. And so I can talk a little bit about like kind of our focus of the new year. Some things I'm really excited about. Well, jumping into new gameplay in the year and looking at getting back to combat, like I really enjoyed the combat playtest quite a bit. And combat was a big motivator for the new engine as well, right? We talked about having an engine that was more capable of cross-platform, like more easily extended through creator tools in such a way as well, were big deals. But it was also, straight up performance. And we got to a point with the combat prototype, which we got about as far as we could, and it was really fun. But we're like, we're gonna need the new engine, like for the next step for this. And so super excited to get that in the new engine in the new year. The combat's still fairly basic, what we played through right now, so it hasn't caught up to that yet. So I'm excited about that, and so we'll do that through some competitive play. Creative play is looking really good, and so we're super excited about creative play and getting that to the next level in the new engine. And then, of course, there's a bunch of stuff around our world gen and our NPCs and Orbis. But our focus in the first half of the year will be on that, on the competitive play and on creative. And a big reason for that is one of our big goals for next year is to bring our first creator into Hytale. To start
Hey, yo, that's awesome. That's great.
Which will be super, super exciting. Because again, like we always talk about, like launching a game like this is starting a conversation, right? It's like starting a conversation with players. And we don't want to go too far forward without having that conversation, right? And we don't want to like jump out and launch before we've had the conversation. So we're like, well, when should we have like our first creators come in and start to tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, right? And we're like, well, let's do it. Like, let's get ready. And so we're going to really focus in the first half of the year on being ready for that. And then our goal is to bring a creator in. So that was a big thing I want to talk about. And now I understand the segue I'm trying to make here. And then, also speaking of the playtest that we did, I think it probably makes sense then to share out a little bit of the creative play. We captured some of that playtest in the new engine, which I don't think, have we shown footage from the new engine yet to anybody?
Other than the static scene with the camera kind of panning in, and then the last one just kind of showing where we were getting with visuals. Yeah.
All right. So all right. World premiere then. All right. There we go.
This is world exclusive.
Thank you so much for watching. As a reminder, you can still donate to our cause at hytalethankmas.com. Thank you so much if you were there on the night, if you watched, you donated, or supported in any way. I will definitely be making a video on the new blog post as soon as it drops, and that could be any day, so keep an eye out, make sure to subscribe, stay safe, and keep free.